3PNR with Adam R. Welcome to 3PNR. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode is Melissa. It's Ferrazzano, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
That's an interesting name, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's very. Yeah. I've only seen it once before as a child on an Anthony. I think you're married to an Anthony, huh?
I am. Yeah.
I knew an Anthony when I was a kid in Brooklyn. So
interesting. You know, that's funny because you know how Facebook connects everybody,
right? And
I did connect with another Anthony Ferrazzano, so it's interesting. I think there's a lot of us. There's a lot of Ferrazzanos, so I think we're cousins somehow. So yeah.
Maybe, yeah. It's strange because I've only ever knew him to have that last name as a kid, and then I come across you as a recently. And then there's an Anthony in your life. What were the chances, right?
I know. What are the chances of that, right?
Yeah, I had communion with him. It was the last thing I remember. So.
Oh, yeah. Too funny.
So, yeah. Melissa, you're a psychic medium. At what point in your life did you start realizing you had these abilities?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I sound like when I tell my story to others, I sound like it's the typical cliche story about how it started with seeing spirits as a child. But I mean, that is truly what happened to me. So when I was extremely young, I can remember around 3 years old. Now, there was only one particular spirit that seemed to have followed me around, and I would only see this spirit at nighttime. And it wasn't that my house was haunted, because this same spirit would show up if I was sleeping at grandmom's house. It followed me wherever I went. And again, I only saw this spirit at nighttime. It caused me a tremendous amount of anxiety. And, adults in my life, if I would explain what I was seeing, well, the typical response was, it's just your imagination. And so, but this same spirit followed me, I'd say, until I was at least a preteen. And they say that we have the ability to turn it off. I think the best thing that I did at the time was just ignore it. So, and again, it isn't something that you can discuss with the average folks without, sounding, delusional, for lack of a better word.
Right.
So I did the best I could to turn it off, but I knew that I always had this ability, and I was the teenager who slept with the lights on. I mean, I think I did that until I started hitting my adult years. And
so you didn't embrace it right away then?
Oh, no. If anything, it frightened me. It really did. I guess because I didn't have an understanding of what this was and why it was happening to me. And I often wondered, well, could it be happening to others too? It isn't something I guess I questioned, because of feeling judged.
Right.
So, yeah. And I'd say, I think it was about 6 years ago, it started happening again. But this time, I remember waking up out of my sleep with a woman staring me in the face, and it frightened me. I mean, that's an understatement. And I remember, it's funny because the very next day, I had to go to a function, and I was trying to process what happened to me the night before. And somebody at this function said to me, "You look like you saw a ghost." So
that could have been said better.
Yeah. And from that point on, it was like the spirit world must have said, "Hey, this girl can see us." So they just started showing up virtually every night. And I started getting used to it. It started to not frighten me as much. And I thought, well, what can I do with this? What is happening here? And so what I did was, at the time, I started choosing to embrace it instead of fearing it, because I realized that there really isn't anything to be afraid of. Now, that being said, it still happens occasionally, and it does still frighten me for a moment. But again, I've just gotten used to this happening. And learning to embrace it and learning to work with these abilities has helped me tremendously. So, yeah, it's just become a part of me and a part of who I am now. And yep. So like I said, for probably the last 7 years, I just I roll with it and realize this is who I am. And I've basically I've had situations where people's loved ones will come to me, friends and family, and I will basically receive messages from them, and I would, deliver these messages to my loved ones. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to assume I have mediumistic abilities. And from then I took time to learn how to work with them, and then created a business giving readings. So that's where I am today. So it's been an interesting journey for sure.
I wonder if there's barriers, right? You can tell them, listen, it's 9 p.m. I'm watching my show. I don't want to be bothered, right? Because they don't really have an agenda or like any schedule, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The biggest thing that I've had to learn to do was learn how to turn it off as best as I can. And when I want to give readings and make a conscious effort to tune in, then I'm able to do that. There is a bit of a process. It comes naturally, but you are right. You do have to set those boundaries and say, hey, this isn't the time. I want to be Melissa. I want to, like you said, watch TV and live a normal life for this amount of time, for however long I can have it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I the more I learn, because, I don't know very much. I started doing this podcast with the idea of interviewing people like yourself, and whether it be paranormal or psychic or ufology or whatever it may be, even health and wellness, or, and so I have an evolving mind. I don't set my ways, right? And what I'm starting to discover is that I think you and select other people have a receptor that's open, right? Because and I said this before in another podcast, I find a lot of people get severe head injury. When the brain is damaged in one place, it starts to compensate in another one. And that other area it's compensating in might be the receptor, the part of the brain we're not using. So you might have a receptor, like your software and hardware are wired differently than others. And I think spirits could, if that's the case, they could recognize that. Because is it the case that when you're hearing them, are you hearing them in your head, or are they speaking to you or does it feel like a download or like an incoming call?
That's correct. It does feel like a download. So the best way that I describe the information that I'm receiving is we have internal senses as well as our, external senses. So we do have that inner ability to see and to hear, and especially to feel. They seem to be the three most intense senses. So, and there are mediums who can taste and smell, but yeah. So we always hear the term clairvoyant thrown around, and right. Clairvoyant just means your ability to see. We always hear about the third eye, that's considered clairvoyance. But yeah, so you're correct. You use those internal senses. You have an internal sense of hearing messages, feeling, we always say, trust your gut feeling, when your intuition is trying to tell you something. So when you receive messages, it comes together in puzzle pieces. One of my mentors, if you're familiar with Cindy Kaza from the show, the Holzer Files.
No, I'll have to write that down.
Yeah, she's truly incredible. Unfortunately, the show has been pulled off the air, but she's if you look her up, you'll find her, and she's an incredible medium, and she describes it perfectly. She says mediumship, it's like Pictionary, charades, and telephone, and so you receive information in many ways, and it's up to me to put those puzzle pieces together in order to deliver the message. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how it works and the best way to describe it.
It's also a thing too, I imagine, where you have to kind of be somewhat prepared for the psychology of a spirit. Mm-hmm. I say this because I've heard a number of, not that I heard from them, but what I've researched is that some of the bigger name psychics, I think Sylvia Brown being one of them, where they gave false information to a family
Right.
And I got some time to kind of process that. You got to bear in mind, just as we are here, as we are there, there could be misinformation spirits giving her false information for that purpose, right? To kind of throw her off. It's now, how do you go about identifying something benign versus something that's out for bad?
Yeah. Psychic predictions, I think they can definitely be a little tricky, and you really have to be careful. You know, so there's a saying that goes, not all psychics are mediums, but all mediums are psychic. So when you receive information psychically, you're tuning into the living person and picking up information, and you may sense a prediction. So you can only trust your intuition and trust that what you're receiving is accurate. And it certainly is not an easy thing. So that being said, you know, we're only human, and you yourself could misinterpret something and give false information. I mean, it is possible. So
Sure.
You really have to be careful. You truly do.
Like imagine like me, I'm a prankster. I would bother if I hate to say it, but if I'm on the other side and I notice someone on your side could see me, I'm like, wow, that person could see me. I'm gonna get involved there, you know?
Right.
But that's just me being a jokester. Now there's some people out there that are like, they're at their core evil, and their job is to spread nonsense and start problems. And
Right.
I wonder how many psychics come across entities like that, where it sounds like an innocent voice telling them real information, but they're really doing it to do damage.
Exactly. That's true. That could very well possibly happen. And it's a shame, because then they hold that psychic or medium accountable
Right.
For misinformation. So, and then something that I also realized, now maybe not in the case of Sylvia Brown, giving information about the family, you know, and I know that she was, her prediction was incorrect. But when a person does psychic readings, the one thing that needs to be remembered is that the future is fluid. So, you know, based on our decisions,
Right.
things can change. So, you know, there's that for the sitter, which is the client, to keep in mind when these predictions happen. You know, your changes could affect everything. You know, the psychic can have a prediction, and then if you choose to do something different, well, then that will change the whole scenario.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I firmly believe that there is no fate. I think there's several paths you could follow, and dependent on those paths are going to be the outcomes, like anything else. It's, I was reading a study some time ago where there was two wealthy kids. They lived in a family. They came from money. Both of them had everything at their disposal to become successful. One became a criminal and the other one became a CEO. So that's, and not that, you know, that has nothing to do with psychics, but the idea that these two people with everything at their hands, still one made a really bad choice. So is it that when you're giving people psychic readings, you could tell them till you're blue in the face, look, this is a bad idea and you should steer away from it. That doesn't mean they're going to listen.
That's correct.
Now they just know.
Right.
Makes it worse, I guess, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because in the end, I mean, we're all responsible for our choices. So yeah. And another thing, I mean, the psychic does have to be authentic, because the unfortunate thing is there are plenty out there who are not, and they're in it for the wrong reasons, and they're in it to scam people. And I mean, there's some that I would clearly say, you know, stay away from, the ones that want to charge this astronomical amount of money,
Right.
you know, to balance your chakras or do a spell for you. I say, you know, stay clear away from them.
Yeah, the guy wants $10,000 to guarantee you a good outcome.
Exactly.
$10,000, you can make some investments and guarantee a good outcome. So
That's great. Yep.
there was a guy, you remember him? Who, I forget his name. He was in like the early 2000s. He said he was going to try to communicate with everyone from 9/11. I was blown away by that. It was way too soon. Like that was, I think, if I'm pretty sure that resulted in him being taken off TV. I think.
Wow.
I can't recall the guy's name. I could see him in my mind. I just can't think of his name. I never really gave him attention. So that, I don't know, people like that, you know, there's mentalists out there too, by the way. There's these people, they're extremely intelligent, and it could basically look at you and get small bits of information about you and almost appear to be psychic, right? And you got to steer clear of those people, man.
Exactly. And that's something called, there's a term for that called cold reading. Maybe they see a tattoo on your arm and can put that story together. Oh, you lost your mother.
Or you have some assistant fact checking you, right?
That's right.
I mean, we got today. It's like being a wizard with the internet, right? You can find anything. So.
Exactly. And that's something that no psychic or medium should ever do. And the biggest thing that I do is I really try to 99% of the time stick with people that I don't know. And the good thing is the information that I've been able to bring through, I mean, it isn't general.
Right.
It isn't on the internet. It could be someone's uncle. I mean, you can't find absolutely everything. So when these, things come up that when the person says, well, that's not listed anywhere. And how would you know that? That's where they know it's authentic.
Sure. When they're talking about like, what kind of cookie jar do we have in a house in 19, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah, you can't, there's no fact checking that on the internet. So I get that.
Exactly.
So how many sit downs do you do on a given week?
Well, it all depends. Sometimes there's quite a few that reach out. Sometimes it's sparse, and it's funny because it depends on the time of year. When it's vacation season, people may not be focused too much on readings, but then when Halloween rolls around, all of a sudden the floodgates open. Everybody wants to hear from their loved ones, and you're almost treated like for entertainment purposes,
Sure.
So it's interesting how you get a lot at once, and then sometimes it's very quiet.
Yeah, I imagine the holidays would be busier because it's when people are most nostalgic. They're going to think of their loved ones. They're surrounded by friends, or they're not surrounded by friends and family. They've lost a lot of people, and now they're really thinking about it. So I would imagine that would be a busy season.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, but I think the best thing is to rely on your intuition. And some people, I mean, they like their divination tools. I do like tarot, but I don't rely on that.
Right.
People will say, well, I want my cards read. And that's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of very knowledgeable and skilled tarot readers, and I admire them. I'm not there with any of that. For me, it's just kind of like additional guidance, so yeah. But readings come in all different forms. And I guess it's whatever calls to the psychic or medium, to give that message.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how often, I mean, I guess it's a weird question to ask, but do you ever get information from the other side and you're like, I don't think I want to tell the living that, right? There's like, I don't want to convey that message. It's not something I think they want to hear, because again, you get a relative on the other side and they're pissed off at blah, blah, blah for ruining their house. Like, I can't believe I died. You paint my house green.
Right.
So
yeah.
I know I tend to kind of travel in those sense of thoughts because I always think about me. What am I going to be like when I pass? And I don't I have this belief system that personally anyway, I think when we pass from here, we either get recycled here, which is why you have a lot of these cases where people remember a previous life,
right,
or you go to the next plane, wherever that may be. But if you get stuck in between, because I've spoken to so many people about the paranormal and afterlife, there's a lot of cases where people are being greeted by their relatives before passing. Because, your body and your computer, your brain is making room for the idea that, hey, we're going, and their relatives that agree. Now, what if you die instantly, fast, right? You're shot, or you're in a car accident, and you're stuck here in a state of confusion, walking around like, what the hell happened?
Right.
Or some people, they don't want to go to wherever it is. They want to stay here. They're like me. I'm nostalgic. I'm attached to this place. I'm going to end up hanging around. So then I think about, what would I do if I'm here? Well, no one could hear or see me because it's a different level of perception, different frequency altogether. And that being said, if I see someone like Melissa and she could see me, I'm like, well, there's my phone call to the other side,
Right.
And I'm a bit of a pain in the ass. I'd probably be at your house every day. All right, Melissa, I need you. I'm not going to come here when you're watching TV, but every day I need you to do this, do that. When do you cut that off?
Yeah. So if there's a situation where there is an earthbound spirit who really wants to make their presence known and they enjoy, getting your attention, you do have to find a way to set those boundaries. Say, hey, you have to behave and you have to respect that this is my home and my time and space, or I'm going to have to ask you to leave. So I know that there's different theories. Some people claim that they can cross spirits over, but some of my teachers and mentors don't believe that's possible. And because just like we have our own free will here in the living, right, the deceased do as well. And if they choose to hang around, and you hear the term earthbound spirits, if they choose to hang around, well, that's their free will as well. And if they choose to move on, then that will be their decision. But I'm sure that there's plenty of times where spirits do not realize that they're gone. Like you said, maybe if there was a tragedy where somebody was shot and killed and all of a sudden they're deceased and they're like, okay, well, what happened here? And if they start showing up and bothering a living person, maybe that spirit just needs to be told, hey, you're no longer living and you're free to cross over on the other side. There might be situations where they just need to know and understand that you're struggling here. You don't know what's going on and it's okay. But, it's time for you to cross over if you choose to, So, yeah, I know there's many different theories out there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to keep in mind too, there's energy's been on this planet since there's a 4 billion-ish year old planet. Mm-hmm. There could have been civilizations long before here that we'll never know about, but their energy, like ours, is still residual, still around. Mm-hmm. And so like a lot of these priests, when I see these shows where priests are there and they're praying and, leave in the name of blah, blah, blah. What if you're saying it's some entity that's been here predating our existence and it doesn't recognize these words? It's like, it has no effect on it.
That's right.
So, there's a lot you got to make room for. So let me ask, in your field of research so far, or any of the sittings, have you come across any negativity, like negative spirits?
Not during readings, not during readings, because everything has to do with intention, with your decisions in life, and even during mediumship readings. I choose to not connect with anything dark or with bad intentions or hurtful or harmful.
Right.
I just don't, because I set that intention that they're not welcome to connect with me. And I trust that I'm safe and protected. So I have never had a situation like that during a reading. Now, I'm also a paranormal investigator and a medium with our team, Family Detectives. And, we've come across some not so welcoming spirits in locations who have drained our energy. We've left locations feeling sick. So that would probably be one of the only times that I've come across something that, wasn't. Now, I don't like to throw around the word demonic. I feel that that word is thrown around so much. And I feel that, Hollywood has just made us feel that, demonic is if you feel a certain way, you go into these locations, well, it's automatically demonic. And that truly may not be the case. Right. There just might be some energy there, spirit that's not nice, just like there isn't nice people in the living. Well, in the spirit world, I'm sure there's a lot of the same. So, but like I said, we've come across situations where, we were drained, not feeling well, and we probably came across a spirit that, did a number on our energy. So that would be the only time I could say that I really had a negative experience, if you will. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you go to someone, I try to express this a lot, or as enough as possible anyway. Mm-hmm. I hear some paranormal people and some other people that are investigating this, they something has put a mark on their body, right? Now, here's the thing. These are pure energy, right? They're not here physically. They're manipulating frequencies to be here. So when they want to touch you, whether it's a touch, whether they want to hug you or hurt you, it's not going to feel good. They're manipulating energy to touch you. It's going to be the same result. So sometimes when you go to investigate a spirit, I think anyway, right? You go to a house and there's people complaining of something in their house. Well, prior to them living there, it's some guy. It was his house for forever. and he's upset. Why are you in my house? He may not perceive what you perceive. Like in your house, you have your furniture, your dog, your stuff's there, but his perception, his stuff's there, and he's seeing it from his perception. He doesn't view it the same way we do on this side. So I think there might be a confusion in how things are perceived, in the barrier anyway. And you're out with a team too. That's right. You're with Rick Warner, right? And Joshua.
Yeah.
ERC. Shout out to Rick Warner.
Yes.
I'm gonna have all you guys on together as a group, by the way, to talk about that. But so how are you liking the experiences with the team so far?
It's absolutely wonderful because we all bring something unique to the table. Rick, being a UFO field investigator, brings a lot of wonderful skills with investigating the clients of the homes or businesses that we investigate, because we're very thorough. We really have all our ducks in a row before we go and investigate a location. We get some information, make sure that we feel confident going in there, and, we have all the right equipment, and so it's been great. It really is. The three of us work so well together. Now for me, I am not to know anything about the location, very, very little about the history, especially if we're investigating a historic place, right. Whether it's a museum or a battlefield or whatever it may be, because I'm to go in there blindly and see what I can pick up, and then see if it can be verified with the actual history and even with our equipment. So it's interesting how we work together and how we put all the puzzle pieces together. And each investigation is unique and interesting, and it's a lot of fun. It really, really is. I enjoy this. I enjoy this very much.
Yeah, it's good that you do that. It gives you a clean approach for a couple of reasons. One, you're right. You get to go in there and you know nothing about it, and you could, whatever you pick up, it could be verified, right? Now, on the flip side, even though you're psychic, if you go there with a preconceived idea of what's going on, it's not so much that it'll taint the investigation, but when you pre-program your brain for something, you're still a human, and your brain, is the most complicated computer on the planet. And psychic ability or not, your brain, the computer, will override whatever sensories you're going to utilize, because you're approaching that with an idea already, right? You already have the filters on. So what you're doing, I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, what's interesting that I found that I can do is, even before going into the location, maybe just seeing a picture, I'll start picking up information and writing it down, and I'll give it to Joshua, our team founder, because a lot of times he'll do the research behind that, that particular location, and he won't say anything. He'll verify it later. And so something like that, I believe that could be a form of remote viewing. I did study a little bit about remote viewing just to kind of get the basics and see how that worked. And that in itself is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the different things that I studied, remote viewing and even psychometry, I use during these investigations as well. So it's really interesting, for sure.
Yeah, I had Tony Civilielli on the show recently. He does instructs courses anyway, remote viewing, and he's got a lot of experience with that. I'd spoken to him at length with that in a couple episodes anyway. And that in itself too. And I was talking to him about it. When you're remote viewing, you're altering time wherever you're going. Right, you're leaving your body. You're in a frequency that's between now and whenever. So it takes a lot of training, I imagine. So you can have a good fix of what it is you're seeing. Because if you remote view, you might go to the right coordinates, but you don't know what date and time you've gone there to. Could be yesterday, could be days from now, could be. So yeah, it's. I imagine that takes a lot of time to hone the skills of that. As far as so here's the best question I'll give you too. So when I get the most, and I guess everyone's different, but for you, what is the afterlife? What happens when we pass from here?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm still trying to figure that out myself. It's I feel that it's an individual thing. Whether somebody, whether they die suddenly and they need time to process that they've crossed over, yeah. I'm not sure. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure if it takes others to transition quicker than, than other people, maybe depending on their circumstances and how they passed away. Right. I know that there's different schools of thought. I do believe in reincarnation, and a lot of that is because, past lives, based on the stories, based on what people have talked about, they have these memories of past lives. I do believe that is possible. I have heard something about, you're in this kind of in between, you cross over and you're, I'm not sure if it's like this school, if you will, where you're evaluating, what you've experienced here on Earth and your life lessons and, reincarnating and evolving, as you go into your next life, you're learning new lessons. And every time, that you reincarnate, that you just continue to evolve, I guess, until, you've reached the highest state. So I do believe there is truth in that. I understand that, there's religious beliefs, again, I think it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure all of that out myself because so many things make sense to me. So I guess in a nutshell, it all makes sense. It does, the different theories I've studied and what others have experienced. Yeah.
It's, if you look at the brain, right? And I say this a lot, it is truly the most complicated computer on earth currently. Still is. We still haven't completely figured that thing out. I think our consciousness and our soul are the same thing, one and the same. And so when you look at a construct of the brain and you look at a construct of the cosmic web and how everything seems to be connected in our universe, so on and so forth, to your point of reincarnation, I kind of agree, because I think what happens is when our vessel goes, when a machine's done, your energy it gets recycled, or it could go to the next plane. I think Earth is a proving ground. Like, I think we're here to one, and this is one of very many proving grounds, right? There's got to be other levels of, and the more I speak to the paranormals and afterlife people, and even ufology, frequency seems to be a common thread, right? And so that being said, when we're saying about reincarnation, because there's some amazing stories of like a kid who could recall events from World War II with some officer that no one had an idea about. So just like when energy gets recycled, some of the data might still be attached to it and then resurface later on in when it's in its next vessel, right? So I think our energy is definitely, it either moves on or it's recycled or it's in that state of where it's stuck here. And those are the ones I think you're dealing with. They're like, what? I don't want to go to the next place, and I'm not sure why I'm in this one. And I think that's and that's what I think anyway. So on your investigations, and you're out with the team, and you're coming across spirits, are you? What do you come across more? Sadness, or is it people of confusion or spirits of confusion? I guess.
It's interesting because I come across all different kinds of spirits. And probably not so much sadness. It's funny. They're either very welcoming or they're very much like, this is my home and you're invading my space. Right. So it seems to be one or the other. And when you go into a historic mansion where there's been so many different people that have, lived there throughout the years, I come across just so many different spirits, and it's funny. It's just different time periods. So that in itself could be interesting, but it really seems to be it's one or the other. They're either very happy to see you, or this is their home, and what are you doing here? So the biggest thing that we do as investigators is first and foremost come in there respectfully. We are never about commanding or provoking or demanding that anybody speaks with us. Right. We're very much into saying please and thank you. Thank you for allowing us into your home. Is there anything that you would like to say? So it's about being as friendly as possible and giving them a voice. So, but sadness, I have definitely picked up on that. And sometimes that is when I am drained the most from investigations, because there's just such a heaviness at these locations. Like, say if there was like a suicide or just something tragic that happened, that tends to hang around. I guess you can call that residual energy. And you feel that, and it's hard to shake that feeling. So it's interesting what I come across, and every place definitely has its own unique vibe, and one place is very different from the other. So it's always an experience. Mm-hmm.
So for you, and I don't know how certain religions frown on psychics, others, they accept it, and then there's a majority where they're very, very old school, and they're, it's this, and nothing else, kind of closed-minded. So God, the word God, and I like to call it the architect, because especially to all the research I'm doing, I'm starting to think there's definitely something that, everything feels like it's design. Like if you look at everything in the universe and how it operates, and even our moon to our planet, and by size and ratio and how precise it is, it seems intelligently designed. So where do you sit in the whole God theory?
Well, I do feel that God is universal, and for me, God and the universe are one of the same.
Right.
So that's probably the best way that I can explain it. I know that God has different meanings for different people, their religious beliefs. I do feel that God has both male and female qualities, because, like I said, God to me is the universe, and there's male and female qualities. With the moon is very feminine, for instance. It has a lot of feminine qualities, the cycles of the moon, which can relate to the woman. It's very dual in nature.
Right.
But that's the way I view God. I do believe that God exists because that's our universe. It's the world that we live in, and we give different names and faces to God depending on our beliefs, our culture, what we were raised with. So I feel that it's all very personal, and I don't feel that one belief is wrong. I feel
you're right, because listen, all religion has a great message. It seems like a very positive one. It's not till some very charismatic, self-serving figure takes the helm and it distorts it in his favor. That's when it gets bad. And like you said, I think something. So part of what you're saying about God not having like an identity, that makes sense to me, because it's an architect. It's a greater force of energy. I remember being a kid. So when I was a kid, a friend of mine, because I grew up Catholic, so that's what I knew growing up. And a friend of mine, Brian, was like, "Well, what made God?" And as a kid, when you go home with that thought and you grow up Catholic, you're like, "Holy shit, who made God?" And before you know it, and that was my first experience as being afraid of death, because then I was really unsure. I was like, "Wait a minute, who did create God? And is there something greater than that?" And I went through this weird phase in my early teens of paranoia. And then I discovered reading and then researching information. And by somewhere, I don't know, in my 20s, I just didn't care anymore. And now I'm back into it. I want to learn. Full circle.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny. I have, excuse me, a similar story, raised Catholic, and you question a lot of things, and we were told, don't question, just trust and just believe. And that's fine. That's fine if that is something that you follow. I really try not to pass a judgment on that. But when you're somebody who questions everything and, okay, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. And why aren't there answers to that? It becomes hard to blindly follow something. So I'm the same way. I do my own research and I go by what is true and correct to me. And somebody may not disagree with my beliefs either, and that's okay. For me, it isn't up for debate. I don't go out of my way to debate with others. I respect what they believe, and that's the way I roll.
It's a good way. You want to research. You want to ask questions. Being complacent's weird, right? Because then if you're just content with what it is you're told and how life is, you wake up every day. It's like you're like a robot. You have a routine and that's it. And that's not good enough for me. There's got to be purpose. And before this podcast and talking to all the guests I've had, I thought when you died, your computer turned off and that was it. Game over. But I've evolved. I've learned so much, and what happens is you get to sit down and speak to people like you and other paranormal people. And out of all of this, you grab these few things that you know to a certainty are unexplained. And if there's something that is truly unexplained, then you have to make room for there's something more. And that gives me comfort. I'm hoping my journey with what I'm going to learn via podcast and documentary when I do it, my goal is to discover not all the answers. There's no way I'm going to get all the answers unless some freak thing happens and I get to talk to a spirit face to face. And even then, I might be the pain in the ass for the spirit because I'm never going to stop asking questions, right?
Yep, that's true. That's true. And that's the thing that I also believe that nobody has all the answers. We don't. And any guru, whoever it may be, that claims that they have all the answers, I always say run, because, we only know what we know. And yes, some people have studied, researched, they're very knowledgeable based on what they've learned, through studying and through their own experiences that they can teach to others. I mean, there's definitely value in that. But we truly, like you said, we truly don't have all the answers until we ourselves cross over, and then it's crystal clear as it's going to be.
Yeah. What happens when you cross over and you meet this group of of entities on the other side? And they're like, hey, watch this. There's a portal to portal to their world. We're gonna mess with them. It's like a Friday thing they do, right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
I personally never witnessed anything ever at all. This is why I'm doing this. I'm going to go out and do the documentary. And you know what? Before I say I never witnessed it for any other reason than, maybe it is or isn't, I'm going to take responsibility. I never really went and looked. I never really asked. So I'm doing a podcast and I'm building a network and I'm going to go do the documentary. I'm going to go to the places because it's kind of irresponsible and I hear a lot of these naysayers. If you want to disprove it, it's not good enough to say it's not real. You go prove it. Just like there's investigators investigating the paranormal. You go investigate the paranormal yourself and whatever, deliver the proof at a table. I mean, that's the way it should be. It's bizarre to me. How many people to this day still say UFOs are not real after the 2017 videos where our government released and we're finally hearing government say, we're not exactly sure what they are. Come on.
Right. No, I completely agree. And, it's okay, especially during paranormal investigations, to use discernment because right. The truth of the matter is not everything is paranormal during investigations. And if a person fakes being touched or fakes being scratched, well, you only made yourself look bad. And if you're working with a team, you make the rest of us look bad. You make us looking incompetent. That we're not to be taken seriously. So, when our, like, for instance, when our equipment goes off, the biggest thing that I make sure of is that it is not feeding off of something else. Are there electrical outlets, something around? Is there something that could be causing this to go off? Try to find that logical explanation. And when we absolutely can't, that's when we say, okay, this has to be paranormal because we can't find any reason why our equipment is going off. Nobody's around. There's nothing that could be feeding off of it. So no, I'm right there with you. And then there are people when there's so much evidence in front of them, like what you said with, the UFO footage, and people are like, no, that can't possibly be real. Well, how can it not be? This was caught.
Yeah. I mean, I know people like this too. I know them. Like I'm not bashing religion. I don't want to do that, but some of these people, like, I know, and this isn't real. And he made here and here only. Okay. Well, they did invent the telescope.
Right.
and eventually we did notice that there's the astronomical amount of planets and solar systems out there and galaxies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got to make room that there's look, if you're not willing to eat aliens for breakfast, then how about maybe there's a plant life on some planet or bacteria? That's life, period. Right. But so I'm not kidding. There's people like, if aliens or ghosts or whatever it is, it's always the devil. He seems to be to blame for it all. He's a scapegoat. No, it's the devil.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's demonic, and that's the devil playing tricks on you. It's
crazy. Yeah, like
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so the devil has nothing better to do in his time than fly UFOs around or cause
Right.
stop it. I imagine that guy's got bigger things on the plate.
That's right. That's
So,
right. Oh no, that's true. Yeah, yeah. There's always somebody or something to blame, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that say that about me as an investigator, as a medium. Oh, she's under the influence of something, some negative demonic. Okay, if that's what
yeah,
you
I mean,
feel, but yeah.
I mean, trust me, if the devil's a real thing, right? I think he would have better things to do, personally. And I had a friend of mine too. Like again, I never witnessed anything. That's not to say that things are not real. It just means I didn't invest the time to go look. And that's what I'm going to start doing. I mean, there's people like you and the team you work with, and tons of other people that I've spoken to that they go out there and do their work, and they find things, and some of the things they find are pretty incredible. And so I had a friend ask me, he's like, well, what are your thoughts? You're doing a podcast now. I mean, what are your thoughts? And I said, well, I don't know yet. I'm going to go look. He goes, you've never seen anything. I've never seen a ghost, nothing. He goes, you know why? I'm like, why? And he's like, because you're a jerk. I was like, real? Because I could be, people that know me in life, I'm sarcastic. I have fun. You know what I mean? I'm a little out there. And he just framed it as like, yeah, you're a jerk. They're not going to want to talk to you, man. You're not the guy. I was like, fine, I'll find the people they talk to and I'll try to record that,
Yeah.
Because it's to his credit, he made me think about that. I went home and thought about it. Like, maybe I am off-putting. Because every time I've heard people tell me about places that either had activity, I'd go there and nothing would happen. Even as a kid, there was an incident when I was a kid. I told the story many times where the friends of mine saw this thing on the other side of a lake. I ran to it. Then I come to the conclusion, maybe I am too aggressive. Because the one time I was somewhere and I could have sworn something was there and someone I was with said they are definitely there. I'm like, come here. I want to talk to you. And then I thought, all right, maybe that's not the right way to do this. So if I ever when I get to meet you guys as I'm out in the field, I'm going to take a back seat as you guys do everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. That's true. I'm not sure if spirits show up for certain people, certain personalities. I don't really feel it's about being like the chosen one. But I'm not quite sure, because you are correct, why some people truly have these experiences and others do not. I do feel safe to say that most of us have had some kind of experience. It doesn't have to be seeing a ghost, but you've had some kind of experience in life where you had some kind of synchronicity and you're like, how on earth could that have happened? There's no logical explanation. I feel that we've all had something in our lives that we just cannot explain,
Right. Well, like I said earlier, you have when I say the software, I refer to the brain as a computer always. I will always do that because to me, it's impressive what it can or cannot do. So you might just have the software for it, right? And maybe things if you listen to the episode I did with Stephen Murr, and Steve Murr and I believe the same thing. There's a lot of parallels with paranormal and ufology and a lot of other supernatural things. There's definitely parallels that involve frequencies, vibrations, different planes. So you have the software, whereas I don't. And I think it plays a big game too if you're an inviting person. Like, good spirits aren't going to approach me because they know I'm going to put them in all right, before we go any further, we got to talk about this. What happened to you? What's on the other side? What do you see? I'm a pain. I get it. But for you, they see you have the receptor and that you're inviting, and perhaps that's where you get it. That's how you get it. I mean, that's what I'm trying to solve anyway.
I agree. It's interesting because I've heard two different theories where it's a gift, and no, don't call it a gift. It's just an ability. So I compare it to a child who, at a very early age, they are fantastic with art. They can draw anything, and where me as an adult, I don't have that talent. Okay, well, why is that? I think that it's where our skill lies. And I guess this would be, my skill, my gift, if you will. And a lot of psychics and mediums say, don't refer to it as a gift because, you sound like you're full of yourself. That being said, something like I'm comparing it to somebody who can draw well. Well, I can take classes I could take art classes and I can probably be okay with art, but I'm not going to be an artist in my life. I don't have that ability. And as far as like psychic abilities go, well, everybody's wired with the same internal senses as me. And as you said, maybe somebody like me, I'm just more heightened, I'm more sensitive, I'm more receptive to pick up information than the average person. And then there's also a theory about, like you said, when our brains are computers, some people are more right-brained and others are more left-brained. And I believe your right brain is where your intuition lies. You just pick up these downloads. And your left brain analyzes. That's our analytical mind. I think I'm explaining that correctly. So some people are just naturally more right-brained. And I get these downloads and I roll with it. I must not take the time to necessarily analyze those. I just kind of take what I receive. And that's the information I get when I do my readings or go into a location about what I'm picking up on. So that's my take on it.
Yeah. You know, like you said, I like what you said, by the way, about the right, left brain. You know, women are can use both sides of the brain simultaneously where men can't.
Interesting.
I just read this recently. Like, so men, we could be really upset and then really angry, but we can't be happy and angry at the same time. It's not possible. Women can explore more emotions than men in a single moment. I don't know why it is. I have to watch the documentary, the full one. I just started reading about it. But anyway, like I was saying, good point. And the download or the software. So when I say the software, again, for you, we all have the hardware. And people ask, like, well, why aren't all people psychics? So we all have the hardware. We just lack the software or the download, right? I mean, not everyone did what Michael Jordan did. He clearly had a gift, right? And he honed in on it. If you go to a level of focus, the abilities of your computer, your brain, are remarkable. There's people out there that are super thinkers, super athletes, or just they're really wonderful or great at doing something that they focus on. So for you, you know, you've discovered your ability and you're honing in your ability to utilize it. You have the software. Some people just, I don't know. It's a tough thing to do is to say something's not real. And I keep going over that because I hear it a lot. Like, oh, it's not real. I'm like, well, how do you know that? I mean, just like you want to say, ask them to prove it's real. It's on you to prove it isn't. And good luck. Let me know the results.
Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a real, I want to seek, I want to find. My curiosity gets the better of me all the time. And I have a wild imagination, which leads me down the road of creating crazy theories. I have a lot of theories. And I've heard people, especially about ufology, I've heard people say great things about my theories. Like, oh, it sounds really good. Well, if it sounds really good, I'm not the only one. There is this thing I believe is called collective consciousness. I think other people have these thoughts. They just don't speak about them openly. So
I agree. I feel that it really comes down to that people fear what they don't understand. And I feel that maybe it's some kind of what's the term? You know, they're trying to protect themselves because of that, because they don't understand it. So it's easy to just say, it's not real. You're making that up. It's not real, because the thought of something other than something abstract versus something concrete. I mean, it's like, to me, many people cannot look past what is in front of them, because looking beyond that scares them. I don't understand why, because just like you said, the world is a fascinating place and you want to explore and learn as much as you can. I mean, I truly enjoy living that way. Just to have this one-track mind, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
But many people do, unfortunately. And I think it's some kind of defense mechanism. That's the term I was looking for. Yeah. Some kind of, just something inside of them. It just protects them because they can't comprehend it. It's too much. It's too much to comprehend. So it's just easy to say, it's not real. That's make-believe. You watch too much TV or whatever they chalk it up to.
Yeah, and then, there's the other part of the world that they need the organized religions to maintain some kind of control. Because then consider how many of these people the only reason I don't kill a neighbor is because of God. The only reason I don't cheat on my wife daily is because of God. And, I hate that. I don't want to be a jerk when I say this, but if you need literature and a belief system to not want to harm other humans, you probably don't belong in the herd. There's a scary thought that you need some incentive to not harm people. That scares me, right? So
I agree.
Yeah. So that being said, let's talk about one of the cases you worked on that you enjoyed the most.
Wow. Yeah, there have been quite a bit of cases. I'm trying to think which one that we enjoy the most, or not we, because the team, we all have our own opinions as to what one would be our favorite. I'd say probably my very first investigation with our team. It was at the Selma Mansion in Norristown, Pennsylvania. And it was that was so exciting for me because I never worked as a paranormal investigator, especially as a medium. I've done group investigations with other teams, so this was very exciting for me. And when I opened the door to that mansion, I just felt like I was hit by a tidal wave. The energy, because there were so many spirits in that place, the energy it was overwhelming. I had to step outside and catch my breath and kind of reground and regroup. And it wasn't a negative experience. I was just like, wow, this is intense. This is exciting. And going through the different layers of that mansion and meeting different spirits. And as we were saying earlier, getting a feel for their personalities. Who was happy to see you? Who wasn't? That was very interesting. And I'll never forget when I started investigating one of the servants. I believe she was from the 1700s. Her name was Martha, and she was so welcoming, so welcoming. I tuned into her energy, and she just wanted to show us around the place. And she was, it was great. It was great to be, to first encounter a welcoming spirit. And like I said, as we moved into the different levels of that mansion, by the time we got to the third floor, I believe it was, there was a not so happy welcoming spirit up there who we were investigating a child's room, and I felt that the spirit was very much protecting the children. Who are you people, and what are you doing in here? And there were two wings to the third floor, and we stayed in the right wing. I did not feel comfortable going into the left wing. I felt like I just felt like this gentleman was protecting it, and he did not want us in there. And I respected that because I do treat wherever we go that this is their home. We're still in the spirit's home. So probably because that was my very first investigation with the team, seeing our equipment going off, especially in that child's room. I mean, what we do now, spirits will focus on different equipment. Not all of the same equipment goes off during these investigations. And we have a teddy bear with a sensor inside of it. So if a spirit tries to manipulate that, and you really have to manipulate this bear, you can't just walk up to it, just walk past it. In this child's room, that bear was going off like crazy. So that was pretty fascinating to see for me, for the very first time as an investigator. So I would say that particular place was probably my favorite because it was a new journey for me. And the whole thing, it was very exciting. And I found that I was able to start tuning into some information about that place well before I went in there. So that was also fascinating as well. Mm-hmm.
I could hear your energy. You really enjoyed it. And you never considered this. How taxing is it on you emotionally and energy, just your overall energy when you go to these places?
I'm pretty exhausted the next day, honestly. And we talk about the word, protection and protecting ourselves. And yes, it's important. But so you have to still have the right mindset, even when going into a place and protecting yourself, whatever that may be. It could be according to your beliefs. If you're Christian and you want to wear some kind of cross jewelry or whatever it may be, I might carry like a particular crystal with me. But protection is a lot about your intention. You go in there saying, I'm protected and I'm free from harm, and I'm going to keep that mindset as I go into these locations. But that being said, I do feel it's important to cleanse yourself afterwards and set that intention that nothing is to follow you home. You're not to come home with me. You're not to attach yourself on my equipment. You're to stay here. And that's that. Right. So it's about going into these places, not fearful, because if you're coming in there fearful, to me, that's a negative vibe that you're bringing in there. But you set your intention that you're going to be okay. But that being said, Usually I'm drained the next day, but a lot of that, it isn't because something attached itself to me. It's because spirits will drain from you, just like they drain from your equipment. They're draining energy in order to communicate. So that's something that I usually face the next day. I really have to, it takes a lot for me to wake up. Maybe I need extra sleep, whatever it may be. You know, you might feel a little all over the place, but that is usually how I feel after an investigation. That's pretty typical for me.
Yeah, I would say, because it's a lot to endure, especially with, you know, again, you have the receptor, you're pulling this information in. I know what it's like for me when I'm just thinking about a few things. And that's exhausting. So I can only imagine. You know, a parapsychologist said to me once, when it comes to the whole thing about either removing spirits or making them not follow you, if you exude confidence, typically they don't follow. You know, they look for vulnerabilities, whether they be a bad spirit or a good spirit. If they see a vulnerability, they get attached to that. And that when he said that made a lot of sense to me, because that's how people are. You know, that's exactly what humans do. We have attachments for depending on if you come across a person in life and they're a relative or a friend and they do good things for you, but they put their foot down. This is how it's going to be. You're going to heed that. Like, okay, you're right. It's going to be that way. You've created a boundary, and I'm going to not go over it. So I imagine the same, you know, as is here, as is there. I would imagine the same.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I don't feel that there's, it makes a difference whether it's the spirit world or living people. You set those boundaries. And like I said, you know, we go into their place respectfully. That is their home, but you set that boundary. Okay. You're staying where you are. I'm going home. This is it. Very, very nice to meet you. And thank you for letting us investigate your home. But this is where it ends. So I completely agree. I mean, now I can't speak for everybody, and this is just maybe my own assumptions, but I don't think it's typical that something follows a person home. Like you said, maybe there has to be some kind of vulnerability, and I'm not by any means saying that it can't happen. But just my own thoughts and feelings. Like, you said.
Some of them are strong. Like you said earlier, they have their own will. Some of them are just strongly willed. They're like, yeah, I don't care about your boundaries. I'm coming home.
Right. Yeah.
So, and there's like these shows I watch where these guys are taking their shirts off. Like, you want to fight? Like, it's a ghost, man, or a spirit. It's energy. What are you going to fight, man? Stop it.
And you know what? And that being said, I do feel that you can cause harm. You can certainly cause harm if you come in there with that attitude. Oh, you know, you touched so-and-so. Why don't you do that to me? You know, you come in there ready to pick a fight. You just might get some kind of attachment. You might get something, you know, doled out back to you that you may not like. So I don't think that's ever a wise thing to do, because I think you're asking for it.
Yeah, not to mention, you're in a room where there's paranormal activity, and you so long as you're, I don't know, I guess balanced, because imagine walking in a room where there's activity, and the activity there's, you know, not bad or good, and you're being a monster. You're in there just screaming. It's going to catch the attention to something else that is not, on the other side, not going to be dealt with very easily, right? You never know who's listening. Imagine that. You know, it's like the big guy, the spirit world's like, who the hell is this guy talking to?
That's right. Because I just imagine strolling into anybody's home, a living person. Are you going to come into their home yelling and screaming and picking a fight with them? Well, you know, you might just get what you're asking for. So it isn't wise. I completely agree. If you wouldn't do it to living people, you know, don't do it to the spirit world, because you may not like what's going to happen. So especially a realm where they utilize energy to touch you, right? They have to manipulate energy to feel you, to touch you. Like if I don't know, to me, when I see these people and they're screaming at these spirits and they're trying to put on this act of like, I'm here and blah, blah, blah. All I can think in my mind is like, you're kidding me, right? Like, where did you learn this? You know, unless anything short of an ecto pack, right? Like from Ghostbusters, I don't see it. Right. So, I don't recommend that by any means. You know, for anybody, an investigator or just anybody to come strolling into a place that you know has activity and provoke, because you may not like what's coming to you, and you may get an attachment. You truly may. So, yeah. I think an attachment would leave me.
I honestly do. Because I'm one of these, I swear by it. When you come to meet me, you're going to notice. Like if I've come across one of these, I want to talk. I'm not leaving until we talk. I'll take up residence here till we speak. That's just how we are. I got a question. I don't know. I'm a weird person, Melissa. I'm gonna do this documentary, and it's probably gonna be my demise, right? I'm gonna find Bigfoot. I say this to everyone. I'm gonna go running at something because I gotta touch it. I gotta grab it. I need that evidence,
Right.
For not even for the general public. For me, at the end of the day, I need to satisfy my curiosity.
I'm right there with you because people ask me all the time, how does this not frighten you? You're an investigator. I mean, aren't you afraid? And I'm like, honestly, no. Now, that being said, I wouldn't go strolling into a place by myself. I like having my team there for support, and I don't think there's any harm in that. There's strength in numbers or whatever, but it's really not out of fear. It's just like I wouldn't go go strolling into any location that I'm not familiar with. It's a common sense thing more than fear. But I'm a very curious person, and I don't scare easily. I mean, yes, the spirit's waking me up in the middle of the night. That took some time for me to adjust to that, and I might get a quick little, just feeling of fear because it's more like startled. I'm not expecting it, and then I'm like, okay. All right, I see you. Thank you. I'm going back to sleep, But as far as investigations go, I'm the same way. I'm very curious. I love getting that evidence. I mean, it's fascinating. It isn't scary. It's fascinating. It truly is.
It is. I mean, and at the end of the day, for people like me, it's a question of your mortality. At the end, no matter what it be, UFOs, Bigfoot, something that's parallel to our normal helps us answer questions about our mortality. That's really what it boils down to in a lot of cases. Some people, they don't really want to look at it in that view, but it's answering important questions to us.
Yes, definitely. And the one thing that I wholeheartedly believe, especially about the spirit world, is it isn't, our loved ones, they aren't some far off place in the sky beyond the clouds in some dimension that we can't reach. I do feel that they're around us. I mean, the next dimension is very close to ours, and maybe there truly is a portal where they can step in and out of our world, cross over if they want us to know that they're with us. I hear people say all the time, I sensed my grandfather's presence in my house. For a minute, I truly felt it was him, and I say, you know what? I believe you're correct. I believe he made his presence known to you, that he's still around you. He's with you, and you felt that, you sensed that. I believe there's truth in that. Definitely.
Yeah. When you start researching space, like and physics, and you start learning that atoms that are here are affected from atoms across the entire universe simultaneously and instantly, and then you look at a cosmic web and how everything's connected, your loved one's energy could be, and this is my opinion again, my theory, when you think about the cosmic, so the people that get recycled here, it's because they probably didn't do so great here. Here's Earth, or wherever Earth is for you. It's your proving ground. You are a real jerk here, or killer, whatever it is. You're getting recycled. You can't go to the next level yet, or the next plane. Start over. Or your name's Melissa, and you did so great here for people as a human. We're recycling you because we need you here again. Or you go to the next plane, or you're stuck in between. So then try to imagine again that if atoms could have an instant reaction to one another from across the universe. Now, that's just what we know from science. Now explore the ideas of what we don't understand. Yeah. And so the very entities you're communicating with may just be, like you said, in another plane. But if you look at a cosmic web and you look how everything's connected and you're communicating, so it could just be a link. And again, I think you have a receptor. I think you have the software. Some people have the software, others don't. Some people are greater in other things than other people. So I think these links are viable. I think it exists, personally.
I agree. I have heard the term auric space. There are people out there that can read auras, and I believe that's our energy field, and our loved ones cross into that field. And we always hear people that say, my loved one visited me in my dream, and it felt so real. And again, I do believe there is truth in that, because you are in a different state of consciousness, and that makes it easier for your loved one to come into that state, to cross into your auric field and communicate with you. I do believe there is truth in that. And I'm actually very jealous of people that have those experiences, because I don't dream too much about, loved ones who have crossed over. They don't visit me in my dreams, maybe because I'm too busy connecting with people in my, while I'm awake, that maybe when I'm sleeping, maybe that's where my brain says, hey, I've had enough. This isn't the time to visit me. But I do feel that they cross into that energy field of ours. Especially for those that have those experiences while they're sleeping, they're more vulnerable to that. You're more open to that. You're more receptive to that at that time.
Yeah, because both sides of your consciousness are working together. They're operating at the same level.
Yes.
So, I don't know, man. Like, a good thing people can't see my dreams, because they are messed up, man. I wake up from some of my dreams. Like, I woke up from a dream a week ago, and I was like, what the fuck? And it's and I think because I was just reading so much paranormal stuff, trying to learn more, that in a dream I heard like a spirit whisper in my ear, and I woke up from my sleep, and I felt like hot and cold. I was like, because I like that nervous feeling or whatever. So I sat up like, all right, something's here. I got to see it. And then I realized what time was. I'm like, now, like out loud. I was like, if you are here, like and this is the time you visit, I'm not happy.
Right.
All the time in the world for you, and you pick now. Forget it. Going back to sleep.
Well, that's one thing that I was told, that the spirit world, they don't have a concept of time. Nope. And like you were saying, you were vulnerable to receive some kind of information, some kind of contact. You were it was your time to receive that. So yeah, and maybe that's where too we always hear that cliche. Well, the spirits are more active. It always seems to be 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I have had a lot of experiences at 3 o'clock in the morning. A lot of times that is when I've been woken up out of my sleep. So I don't know if that's significant in their world, but I think, but I agree. It's like, why can't you talk to me at a different time?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, it's a dream, because I didn't get I have a lot of dreams that are like very detailed, extremely detailed. So then I wonder, after these dreams, like how powerful is the computer, my brain, how powerful is this thing to make these whole worlds and these scenarios that I've clearly never been in, and just make this entire movie right before my eyes. And I can't really remember all of it. No one ever remembers all their dreams, but the parts you do remember, it's amazing, the detail. So then you take into factor someone with like yourself and other psychics, where you have the software, and you get these downloads, and the ones that are clairvoyant, they could see things. Like whenever I hear someone say, well, there's no way clairvoyants are real. Like, you ever had a dream that was so real, you woke up and you were convinced, it took you a minute to come out of it. Then now picture someone that could focus and harness that in their mind. That's powerful. And you know who else could do that very well? Artists could do that. People could. So it's in this world we live in now. I don't think it's good to cast doubt. I think it's great to ask questions and learn more, but don't cast doubt, because you just don't know. We don't know everything.
Exactly. I completely agree. Keeping an open mind and, just continuing to learn as much as you can, like you said, about the world around you, or if there's something that just truly interests you, a lot of the different things that we talked about, and you take that and you research that further. It truly is fascinating. It really is. And I agree with you that it just boggles my mind that many people are not receptive to this sort of thing. It's just too out there for them. If they can't process it, then they just boom, shut it off. It's just, these things are beyond my scope of understanding too, but I still would like to learn about it. I'm still fascinated enough that I want to take time to try to put those puzzle pieces together and just get some kind of understanding, because it's amazing. It is amazing what you learn.
Yeah, and it's very important to never be a master. Always be a student, because you'll always pursue more. Always.
I completely agree. Like I was saying, nobody has all the answers, and to keep that open mind, you do. Even if you are just learning the basics again, there's something new in the basics that you may not have realized before. So like you said, to keep that open mind and to always be a student, it's very important, because I feel like with a lot of things, we're just scratching the surface. We really are, Yeah,
I think science is going to bridge the gap between fiction and reality soon. And it's going to I predict people like yourself it's going to help you, because eventually we're going to have chips in our brain, and you're gonna be able to connect your conscious and your subconscious, and you're gonna be able to communicate without words. And then there's gonna be things that you could perceive that you could otherwise not perceive. I think things are gonna change.
I completely agree. I do. And so like you said, I always strive to be that student, and I continue to take classes under some very good mediums who have, done this for a really long time. And even if I'm taking a class where I feel like I have a basic understanding and, okay, is this a waste of my time or money? 100% of the time it's not, because there's always something valuable that I can take from those classes,
right.
That I could take on my investigations and gain more knowledge, more evidence that I can bring to the table that can be verified with the history and with our equipment. So I always strive to learn as much as I can. I completely agree with you.
And I applaud that. And so, Melissa, before we close, if I know you do some sessions online as well?
Yes, absolutely. So I do virtual readings. I read over the phone and face-to-face. And so I do have a Facebook page, and it's under Psychic Medium Autumn Melissa. That's my Facebook page, right. Psychic Medium Autumn Melissa. And you can also I do have a website, and it's psychicmediumautumn.com.
And I'll put that in the description as well. So I'll have those links for people to find.
Great. Thank you.
In the meantime, Melissa, it was great. We're going to be doing it again soon. I know that certainly, right? We're going to have me, you, Rick, and the rest of the team on coming up soon. So in the meantime, I had a great conversation. I look forward to the next one.
Me too. Thank you so much. It was wonderful meeting you. And yes, lots of a great conversation for sure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise, by the way. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. Thank you.